So, before we get this commentary started, I just want to give a shout out to Mangs and Zerul. He's been leaving a lot of comments on my Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem videos, and they're quite informative and interesting to look at. Mangs and Zerul makes Fire Emblem videos like I do, and he's been playing a couple FE hacks as well in the past. Go ahead and check it out. Check out his channel. He's got some good stuff. Anyway, click. This chapter. So basically, in the previous chapter, Katua randomly showed up and said to Marth, "Hey, dude, Minerva, she is kind of in a shitty situation. Her sister Maria is being held hostage, which is why Minerva had to fight you, you know? But if you can save her, Minerva would be super grateful, and maybe she'll give you a little something, eh? By that, she means join your team. But anyway, Marth, being a good sport, he's just like, yeah, you know what, we'll do it. You know, we were just trying to relax and finally get away from all the damn battles, but alright, fine. Marth, you know what? That's the thing. Fire Emblem 3 might as well be titled Fire Emblem 3. Marth fixes everyone's shit. Because that's basically what happens in Book 1 and in Book 2. Like, nobody could get their shit together. Anyway. So this map is not very interesting. There are literally like 3 things in it that are noteworthy in terms of challenge, right? But we'll get into that in a moment. Right now, some Minerva cutscenes. So Minerva's just like, dude, I just want to see my sister. And this guy's just like, this guy's name is Jerkoff, by the way. Pronounced J-U-C-O-F. And I know that's not pronounced Jerkoff, but when you see a name like that, you just can't help it, you know? But anyway, Minerva's just like, she's just a child, man. I just want to see her. And this guy's like, sorry, that's not possible. She's an important hostage. You know, we gotta make sure you do your shit. Even though, you know, you're the princess and all. That's kind of a douchey thing to do to your princess, you know? But then again, I think these guys are from the Durua Empire. I'm not sure. Like, I tend to, it's hard to tell, you know? It's either Macedonia or Durua. Those are the guys who are always doing mean shit in this game. But yeah, so what's the best way to start off a chapter in a Fire Emblem game? How about walking south for about 3 turns doing absolutely nothing? If you enjoy that kind of shit, well, guess what? Jackpot. So, the 3 things that are noteworthy in this chapter. Firstly, you got promoted units. There's a hero up at the north. You can tell by his big sword and his shield. He basically looks like a mercenary, but with a shield. You also got a sniper inside the castle. He's going to be a huge pain in the rear. And of course you got the boss, and there are 2 wyvern riders that we have to deal with. Minerva, we'll get into it later, but long story short, she's not going to attack us. So the other interesting thing is that there is a thief that's going to nab all the chests. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot reach that guy in time, so you have to use a warp staff to catch him. Unfortunately, whereas I could have just used 1, I ended up using 2 because I underestimated the abilities of the thief. That thief has 8 attack speed. None of my units can double him. Not even Marth, and Marth's like the fastest unit on my team. So when I do take the opportunity to attack him, I'm going to warp him over with Maria and hope for a crit with a killing edge. Unfortunately, this doesn't work. So I ended up having to use another warp staff because, unfortunately, that thief walks right into the range of the archer and the sniper. And that sniper is serious business. He's got 32 HP, he's got a steel bow, lots of strength, lots of skill. There's basically no safe way to get in on him unless you have enough defense. And thankfully, Marth has enough defense, but you still don't want Marth taking on too many units at the same time. So, basically what's going to happen is that I'm going to be forced to take my time here, and that thief loves to speed along. So, long story short, I ended up using another warp staff. this was my first attempt at the chapter. I could have optimized it, obviously, and not have to use that second warp staff, but let me just... I'm going to take a moment here and look at how long it took me. Alright, so this chapter, this whole winning run, took 43 minutes. I could not be asked to redo all of that horse shit. This game, like, just with the beginning portion, you're literally doing nothing. It's like this game takes pride in wasting your time. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's going on. You know, developers back then, they wanted to give you more content for your money, and in order to do that, what they did is that they just made the game longer by padding out the experience. This happened with games like Symphony of the Night, where they had like a whole second castle and shit that didn't really like improve the overall like average quality of the game. Just randomly strewn enemies about in places that didn't really make sense, and so on and so forth. And there were also games like Castlevania 2 that also did this. So, the Wyvern Riders are relatively easy to kill, because now we're well armed to fight them. Merrick's got that Excalibur tome that kills him in one hit, and Bantu just does 22 damage unresisted. The rest of these Pegasus Riders the rest of the flyers aren't much of a big deal. So about Minerva, let's get to her now. She will never attack you. She will walk in your range. Sometimes she'll dance outside of it, but she will never actually come near you and attack. Which I think is actually an interesting attention to detail, because it's like she's trying to fool her superiors into thinking that she's going to come after you. So, here's an interesting thing about this chapter. You might notice that the horse rider Abel can go inside this castle without dismounting. I don't know what the fuck it is with this chapter, but yeah, that can happen. I have not seen any other chapter in this game where that's possible, but then again, I haven't played this game in a while. So here comes the tedious bullshit, where I have to slowly nudge Marth forward. Also, he got resistance there. And just kind of bait all these enemies out. Now, it's worth noting that even though the reason why this footage is only 17 minutes is because I had to speed up the gameplay footage 3 times instead of 2 times. That should give you an idea of like how stupid this shit is. Though I already pointed out the exact time it took for this chapter to be completed. But anyway, so we're gonna take care of those archers very slowly, and then from there, like at one point I'm just like, fuck it, and then warp Marth over to the, well, I don't warp Marth over to the thief, I warp Julian over so that he could get extra experience, and because I still, for some reason, I still have hopes that he's gonna become a good fighter sometime in the future, because he does have good growths, as I mentioned before. But that, the more I play through this game, the less likely that seems to be happening. So, an interesting to note about thieves in this game is that they will never attack under any circumstances unless you attack them first. That's the only time they'll ever, like, what I'm saying is that they'll never initiate a round of combat with you. So, when that thief goes to that chest and nabs it up at the north, I'm gonna teleport Julian there and trap him. Basically, to trap him in a corner so Julian can have his way with him. Don't misinterpret that. So, that's done. Most of the challenge of the chapter's ruined. I feel like what they could have done with this design is that they could have made it possible to catch up with the thief, but like put opposition in the way, and not require you to use a warp staff. So that way there would be kind of like an interesting challenge to it that wouldn't require you to just out bullshit the game. Oh, and here, I said that the sniper was a big pain in the ass, but Marth just flat out one-rounds him. That just goes to show you how good Marth is. Though it's worth noting, Mangzin's rule, when I was talking to him while I was recording this, he said that my Marth is way better than any Marth should be. Because apparently Marth only has a 30 defense growth, but in this game, 30 defense growth is actually pretty good. So, there we go. Good old Julian gets warped over to that thief, traps him in the corner, and he's gonna gangbang him or some freaky shit right there. And The only other obstacle left in this chapter is that hero, and thanks to Marth's support bonus with Sheeta and his well-armed weaponry, that's not going to be too much of a problem. So Maria is in the center, and when you recruit her, Minerva will actually start to chase after Marth, and once she gets close enough, she will just automatically recruit herself onto the team, and she gives you this, like, sad face, like, please help me. You know, I can't solve my own problems. Well, okay, to be fair, I don't think I'd be able to solve my problems if I were in her position. So, to the left of this castle, there are some shops and stuff, and just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what was over there. But, of course, since this is FE3, I'm suspecting ambush reinforcements. So, once I'm far enough, I do turn him into a dragon, just in case somebody shows up and fucks him in the ass. That never happens, though. So I just completely wasted another Firestone use for no reason. Though, on that note, while I was over there, I did learn the very valuable lesson that dragons cannot shop. Like, the game simply does not give you the option. So you have to wait for Bantu to return to his human form if you actually want to shop. Something else that's noteworthy. By the way, Maria's dialogue in this isn't as good as it was in Shadow Dragon. She's a lot more sassy in that one. Though she does have an adorable politeness in this dialogue, but for some reason, Minerva was oddly fascinated with Bantu. She kept stalking him. And my theory is that her Wyvern Rider is really attracted to Bantu. Like, that Wyvern Rider wants a piece of that, like, wrinkly face and bald head. You know? You know, I mean, whatever she's into, you know? Anyway, we're gonna take care of that hero, and then wipe out the rest of the enemy dudes. It's worth noting that in a final act of spite, the game spawns 8 reinforcements at the start of the chapter. 4 horsemen, well, 4 cavaliers, and 4 bowmen. And they will never catch up with you, and they move very slow. So all they do is serve to waste your goddamn time even more. And it's at the point where, like, nothing else is going on either. Like, you're just walking over to the boss, so this just wastes more time. Also, there's nothing noteworthy in those shops. But yeah, something I want to mention is that when you move units on the map, the speed at which they move on the map is actually based on their speed stat. So if you have a unit with like 20 speed, they'll actually like zip across to the point you put them in. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a nice touch. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that it doesn't exist in newer games, because Jesus, man, Knights would be a horror. So yeah, here's Minerva. She's just like, yeah, my older brother just kind of took over, killed my father, and is trying to take over the world and shit. Could you stop him? Also, I was separated from my 3 white knights. They'll join you and shit if you want, but you gotta find them. Yeah, right there. They're suffering under the Duru Empire. Like I said, this game might as well be called Marth Fixes Everyone's Shit Up. Anyway, let's look at my notes. So let's talk about the stat boosters. Unlike newer Fire Emblem games, the stat boosters give you way more stats. In the previous chapter, I got a goddess icon from the boss. In newer Fire Emblem games, you get 2 points of luck from that. But in this game, you get 5. Now, the bonuses you get from each stat booster is different. Like, for example, the speed ring that we get from this boss is 4 points of speed. Now, the nice thing about this is that this also applies to the boots. Boots give you, I think, 5 movement. And considering how goddamn tedious it is to move Martha across these maps, I am eternally grateful to the developers for that shit. Actually, I shouldn't even be, like, grateful to them, because they're the ones who designed this shit in the first place. All this tedious garbage. Yes. So, I think I've more or less run out of shit to say. Charges after you, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, more notes. Yeah, I think I've legitimately run out of shit to say. So, how about them Mets? Yeah, check out these assholes here. See, this is how long it takes for them to move. And that's at 3 times speed. It's worth noting that Maria is not a very good unit. Which is to be expected at this point. I mean, you know, any unit in this game that you get after the first few chapters basically kind of sucks. They always have, like, relatively shitty base stats, and they have much worse growths. Also, I'd like to mention that I really like this guy's portrait. He actually looks like a fucking badass. And I'm starting to notice that a good number of these bosses actually have their own designated palettes. Which is strange because I've noticed that a good number of our units don't have, like, a designated palette. Like, you look at Abel and Cain, and from what I remember, they all have the exact same palette when they attack the enemy. So that's kind of weird. Oh, in a way to spite the game for putting me through the extra tedium of dealing with those reinforcements wasting my time on enemy phase, I decided that I wanted to kill them with Bantu. Now, it's worth noting that there's no actual reward to this because Bantu has really awful growth rates. I think he has 10% growths in only 2 stats and 0% in everything else. I just did this because I fucking hate that the game is doing this shit to me. So I just went and did it. But weirdly enough, the developers were pretty smart about this, but the enemies won't attack units that they can't damage. And since Bantu has 14 defense, which is more than these guys can do, they just kind of surround them. Like, just staring them down. Like, oh, jeez. Look at that thing. It's almost like they're on at a museum. Like, oh shit, check out the elusive dragon. Old as fuck dragon. Okay, so we seized the point, thank God. I don't have to talk about this chapter anymore. God damn. And our lady, Princess Nina here, talks about this archbishop dude who had a daughter named Linda. And man, am I excited to get her. Linda is probably one of the hottest fucking Fire Emblem characters in the entire series. And I will most definitely be using her because 1, she has a really good magic tome, and 2, I just stated it. But she also has a really cool custom animation in this game. Oh, and one last thing. Despite the fact that I said units that join late tend to suck, Minerva's super good. Like, Jesus. 12 defense, man.